Hello everyone, my name is Evan Freiberger, and today we're going to be talking about the exiting of our first snowstorm, pretty much our first snowstorm that has brought major impact to the United States. It has been scraping across the Great Lakes over the last couple of days, and now it is officially about to exit our country, but we have yet another storm. So storm number 2 coming into a little bit further south in the Midwest here. We're talking about areas like Iowa, northern Missouri, going into Illinois, Wisconsin, also in parts of Indiana, eventually into Michigan and Ohio, and then eventually bringing some extra snow up here to kind of the northern interior portion of the Northeast. And then after this storm, we have storm number 3 that is just now entering into the 5-day range. We're not going to go super into detail into this guy right here, but we are going to talk about what some of the models are at least saying about what this storm can do in like the earlier portions while it's in the 5-day range. Again, we're not going to have any 100% answers to give you on this storm. It's been trending in all different directions, but we'll be talking about it just a little bit in this forecast as well. But before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and let's go ahead and hop right into it. So what we have here is our first winter storm, which is up here into the Northeast. Let's go ahead and change our map over there, because that's probably where we're going to see some of our biggest impacts to come with this storm, and then a little bit over there in Lake Michigan still. If we come over here to also the HRRR model, switch it over to the 12Z, which is our latest 48-hour run, you can see that we are going to continue to see these lake effect snow bands come off of Lake Erie into parts of Ohio, northeastern Ohio, over there near Erie, Pennsylvania, over there near Buffalo, Hamburg, and then also near Watertown as well. And we're going to continue to see this storm bring those. As long as there is wind in this area, there will be snow. And you can see over the next 12 to 20 hours, we are seeing that snow continue into the 28th, potentially even into the 29th, going into like early morning on the 29th, and that's around where we're going to see our storm start to dissipate. Now let's come over here to the snowfall, total snowfall to come. So we still have potentially up to 12 inches of snow in this area. We're talking about, over here into northeastern Ohio, anywhere from 4 to 8 inches. Over here into Pennsylvania, near Erie, Pennsylvania, maybe a little bit just to the south and east of that. We're talking about 8 inches. And then a little bit further up to the north, close to like Hamburg, maybe a little bit east of Hamburg and Buffalo, could see up to 17, maybe even getting close to 2 feet of snow into some isolated areas. And kind of the same thing to say back up here into New York as well. So if you live near Watertown and a little bit further interior there and a little bit further to the south and east of that, we could see yet another little band of snow here of 7 to 8, 9 inches being possible. Now, this isn't the only area we're going to be expecting lake effect snow with our first storm. So let's go ahead and switch our attention back over towards the Great Lakes, where we're talking about areas like Michigan. And also, we're starting to see the HRRR's first kind of guess and what our next winter storm is going to do. But let's just focus on over this, and then we'll go look at some of our other models and kind of compare and contrast with our second winter storm. But this is still what's to come on the lake effect snow. Could potentially still see up to 20 inches of snow over here into northern Michigan. So still expecting some major impacts over there in Michigan. So if you live in this area, make sure that you are, paying attention to the roads, and, make sure you have extra supplies, because we still got a lot of snow to come. As you can see, let me bring this all the way back and just kind of show you how this is going to play out here. So going into this evening, we could start to see that snow really stack up here. Already 9 inches as we go into 4 p.m. tonight. And then you can see as we go into the later night portions, talking about like 9, 11 p.m., we are already starting to see a strip of snow up here with 22 inches. A little bit further to the south and west in western Michigan, we're talking about 1 to 4 inches by the time we get to 11 p.m. tonight. And then as we move into the early morning tomorrow, you can see that we've already got some areas approaching 2 feet or higher up there in the northwestern portion of Michigan. A little bit further to the south, we're starting to get into those 8 inches. areas and a very thin strip. So again, this lake effect snow can kind of go up, it can kind of go south. It really just depends on a couple of factors, where that wind blows and where it kind of stretches out over the lake effect or area. So, you know, we could see little tiny areas, or we could see a little bit bigger areas there of snow, and it could go north, it could go south. So don't take this as 100% fact, but just know somewhere in this general vicinity there, we are going to see the chances for, you know, at least 8 inches. So, and then we can also see another strip of 8 inches into northern Indiana, and going into parts of Ohio could even see 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches as we head into 8 a.m. And then as I continue to push this forward, you can see we might even get some accumulating snow over here into northern Ohio. Now the ground is going to be, you know, fairly cold enough, I think, for some of this to stick. So we could get, you know, 1 to 2 inches could be possible there as well. So now let's go ahead and bring this back over to our national view here. And then also we're going to come over to the GFS to take a first look at our next snowstorm. So snowstorm number 2. So after this lake effect snow starts to subside, we're going to be talking about another winter storm that could be after this, and this could potentially cause some major impacts. We're talking about you know, severity. We have a winter severity index. It ranges from light to moderate to major impacts, and we actually have an area highlighted, and we'll be going over that in just a little bit. But you can see our low pressure system over the next couple of hours is going to start to develop here off of the Rockies. We're going to see some Lee cyclogenesis, which essentially is just a little low pressure system forming off of the mountains. And as we continue to push this forward into the 29th, you can see that this storm is going to be bringing moisture out of the Gulf and up into some cooler air further up to the north. If I bring out my pen, let me make sure that it's on the right setting. There we go. Yeah, you can see this moisture comes out of the Gulf of Mexico. And then you see this little blue line there. That is our freezing temperatures. That moisture is going to go over and into the freezing air. And we have a little bit of diffluence up here to the north. So although this isn't going to be the strongest winter storm, we are still going to have some winds around this storm, and also potentially long duration snow event really in this area here. So if you guys live in this area, be expecting some pretty heavy snow. Now, one of the things that I'm still a little bit curious about this storm is we are still around 3 days out. So I'm still wondering if we're going to see any shifts to this freezing line. If we get any extra warmer air, we could see some of these further south areas not get as much. But I mean, our models, I'm not going to lie, are pretty darn consistent. If we come over here and compare this to some of our other models, here's the Euro model. Basically has snow in the same spot, maybe a little bit further north. The Icon, same thing. The interesting here, some of our higher resolution models have been coming into range as well, and some of them have been showing the range snow line a little bit further up to the north. So, you know, that could be just a trend, or it could just be our higher resolution models are, you know, still a little bit too far out in their range to really be depicting anything overly accurate. You know, the NAM kind of shows something similar there. You know, the NAM 3K model, you know, has that rain snow line a tad bit further north. Then you have like the RDPS with it all the way down to the south there, but then you have another high resolution model. So we kind of have a split here between our higher resolution models and our, you know, our global models. And so I'm a little bit curious to see which one of the is going to play out. You know, there is the whole thought process that our higher resolution models are higher resolution, so they should be able to, you know, depict the rain snow line a little bit better where our temperatures are going to go. But, you know, we're still a little bit far out in their range. We'll probably have a lot more answers tomorrow on whether or not this is just a possible major weather system, or if it's, you know, we're going to see some downtrend for some areas. But I do think no matter which scenario plays out, we could definitely see, you know, a lot of snow for somebody out there. So those are my current thoughts on our snowstorm right now. But let's go ahead and push this forward. Today, we're going to be talking about also the snowfall accumulation. So just a little bit of an update here. This storm is going to get started mainly up in Montana and South Dakota, North Dakota on the 28th. But as we move into the 29th, at like mid-afternoon is when that snow is really going to start to pick up, maybe even get some heavy snow on the 29th, early morning at around 6 a.m. And then we're going to see that continue through the 29th into the nighttime hours over here into parts of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. And then into the 30th, we're going to see maybe even more lake effect snow on the backside of this storm and the more mountainous snow as you go further up into the north east. So that's the timing there. So let's go ahead and look at our snowfall amount. So this is the total snowfall amounts here on the GFS. And as you can see, we do have quite the area here of snow. And in fact, we already have a little bit of a consensus, maybe enough consensus, as you can see here, to already be calling for major impacts. As you can see right here, this is important. This is important, right? Okay. These have meaning. So minor impacts out here, which is in the yellow. This is expect a few inconveniences to daily life, winter driving conditions, use caution while driving. Moderate impacts, expect disruptions to daily life, hazardous driving conditions, use extra caution while driving, closures and disruptions to infrastructure may occur. Major impacts, expect considerable disruptions to daily life, dangerous or impossible driving conditions, avoid travel if possible, widespread closures and disruptions to infrastructure may occur. So we're not talking about extreme impacts yet, but we do have major impacts expected for a pretty decent area here. We're talking about all the way over there into Ames, Fort Dodge, Des Moines, Iowa City, Muscatine, Davenport, Clinton, Dubuque over there in Iowa, going into Wisconsin, Madison, Janesville, Milwaukee, Kenosha, and even into parts of Illinois. We're talking about Galesburg, Peoria, and Clinton. Now, keep in mind, if that rain snow line, like some of our higher resolution models, is a little bit further north, we might also see this heavier snow band shift with it. But for now, this is our current thought process. We could also have moderate impacts all the way from Minnesota going into Iowa and Missouri, all the way into Indiana and Michigan and parts of Wisconsin with this next snowstorm. So this is definitely going to be an impactful snowstorm. Make sure you are prepared for this. Obviously with snow, as long as you're not on the road and you're just hanging out in your house, you should be okay. But, if you have to drive somewhere due to a medical emergency, please exercise caution. And if it's something that you can wait a day, I would wait a day. I would definitely wait a day. But okay, so now we're coming back over here to the models. Here is our estimated snowfall amounts. The GFS is saying potentially up to 13 inches possible here into Missouri. But again, if that rain snow line is a little bit further up to the north, that's going to be a lot lower and maybe shift our heaviest snow band into Iowa. But generally, in this pink, we're talking about 7 inches to some isolated spots to up to a foot in a lot of these areas. So again, if you live in the pink here, that is who needs to really be paying attention. Everybody else is going to be getting around 5 to 4 inches of snow. Now, the one thing that's really important to do when making a forecast is to compare and contrast between different models, because again, none of these models are going to be exactly correct. Every one of them is going to have a little bit of a different scenario as we go into the future. Here is our AI model. It doesn't really have that high resolution when it comes to snow, but generally it's highlighting the same areas here. Here's the Euro model. Difference between the Euro and the GFS. Euro's a little bit further up to the north, so we're not going to see maybe as heavy snow further down to the south, but could still see a decent strip of snow with that high impact zone over there into northeastern Missouri, with about a one foot of snow there, which is still kind of consistent and matching up a little bit to the GFS, maybe a little bit further up to the north and east on that as well. But that's a great depiction of, if our rain snow line is just a tad further north, that major impact area might also spread a little bit further to the north as well. But generally, we're talking about 7 to 8 inches across this entire peak area, with some higher amounts of up to 10 inches over here for a lot of Iowa, northeastern Missouri, and also going into western Illinois. Seems to be the area that we're really focusing in on. And you look across all these different models, they all kind of show the same thing here. Major impacts being expected with the RFS with up to 15, 16 inches of snow. But you can definitely call that an outlier. But generally most of our models agree that there is going to be a spot of a foot of snow somewhere in this area. It really just depends on where that heavy band sets up and where our rain snow line is. Again, we're still 3 days out. There is still time for even big shifts still as we get closer to when this actually happens. So just keep a realistic mindset. Don't take these snow maps as 100%, because I can tell you right now, we are going to see some changes before this happens. It's very rare that we don't see any changes whatsoever. But yeah, that's what we're thinking about, at least for now, with our second snowstorm. So let's go ahead and talk about the potential for yet another snowstorm after this. We have another winter storm that is entering into the picture here. You can see that we get that moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. We still have some cool air lingering behind our second snowstorm, and this moisture rides up into that cooler air, and we start to see some more snow on the northern side. And as I push this all the way out to day 5 here, you can see that a lot of moisture is in the southeast, potentially a freezing rain event. It could be possible with this storm as well. And on the northern side, there could be some snow, but okay, big buts here. Okay, so here is the Euro solution. Huge differences. You see that, you know, our freezing line is a lot further north. So let's go ahead and highlight where that is. So here's our freezing line on the Euro. If we come over to the GFS, you can see our freezing line is a little bit further south, and that makes a pretty big difference on who sees snows. We're talking about, you know, the difference between maybe an inch over there in Arkansas to no snow. And if we also come back over to our other models here, or go back to over to the GFS and look at the trend. This is our furthest south model right now. You can see that it has actually been trending to the north. So if we go back a couple of days ago, this thing was even showing some potential snow or mixed precipitation over there near Mississippi. But after the last couple of model runs that have come through, you can definitely see it is slowly shifting up to the north with maybe a little bit wobble back down to the south. So, you know, again, these models are going to be wildly wrong when it comes to the snow on this storm, because again, 5 days out, that's still major, you know, inaccuracy land when it comes to these models. So definitely don't take this model with anything other than a grain of salt, and then take that grain of salt, especially if you're up here into the Midwest, and put it on the ground to make sure that you keep those roads a little bit less slick. But that is what we're talking about here for our second storm. It does appear like we're going to have another storm. I think we can think that that is the likely scenario, that another storm is coming. Now, whether it's mostly rain or mostly snow really just depends. The Euro is more of a rain solution, maybe bringing more snow to folks that just got some, or the GFS is, you know, a little bit more of a rain and snow mix with some heavier bands, maybe a little bit further south. And yes, I think, you know, generally thinking, when I think about storms in early December, when we still have a lot of heat in the Gulf of Mexico, I generally think that these storms could trend north. You know, it's really as we get into January where I really think that we're going to see more southern shifts, as some of these models will struggle with the cold. But a lot of times when we're in December, our models struggle more with the warmth than they do with the cold. But those are just my thoughts on all 3 of these systems. Now, when it comes to severe weather, here is our latest severe weather map for day 3. We don't have really anything else to talk about until we get to day 3, and that's going to be with our second snowstorm. There is going to be a little area of moisture down here, a little area of forcing. We're not really talking about anything serious, just a little marginal risk over there in eastern Texas and Louisiana. But if any of our trends change on that, I will definitely make sure to let you guys know. But yeah, that's what we're talking about there. And then last but certainly, obviously not least, is our temperatures and wind gusts is what we're going to be looking at next. So here is our temperature map going into the future. Let me bring this all the way back to the beginning here, make sure it's nice and loaded. There we go. Okay, so this is what the temperatures are kind of like right now this morning, into the 20s and 30s out there, with some lot cooler air up here into North and South Dakota. Now, as our first winter storm continues to push out, we're going to see those temperatures try to creep down a little bit further to the south, especially tomorrow morning at around 6 a.m. is when we're probably going to see our coolest temperatures, as those temperatures reach down into the 30s, below 0 for a lot of folks. Pretty much anybody that is underneath, let me erase these lines. Pretty much anybody that is underneath this area right here is going, or like on top of this area, so like up there, is going to be below freezing. Everybody below is likely going to be above freezing, unless we get some extra winds down there. Then we might see, you know, a little bit cooler temperatures, but those are going to be the feel like temperatures. But yeah, generally that cold air is going to come in, and then eventually we're going to have that secondary snow system, which is going to bring some even colder temperatures a little bit more further down to the south. Now, we're still about 5 days out from this happening, so we could see some shifts, but we're monitoring for this pocket of cold air to bring some cooler air to people that haven't really seen single digit or negative degree temperatures yet. We could be talking about negative degree temperatures over there near Iowa, and then also into Wisconsin. But again, still a little bit of question marks here. If we come over to our other models and compare and contrast to see if we have any type of consensus, you can see there is big differences here on where that cold sets up. Euro's not as cold, GFS is a lot colder. So we're watching for the trends. As of right now, we don't really have much to say for that, but generally a big cool down, not too much of a warm up, maybe a little bit down there in the southeast, but then we just get another cool down after that. So the eastern portion of the United States is going to be a little bit chilly as we go into the future. But yeah, that's going to be it for me in today's forecast. I do appreciate everybody tuning in, and yeah, enjoy the snow. Maybe send a couple inches down to the southeast. If not, we ain't gonna hate you, but it would be nice. I would like to build a snowman too. Y'all better not hog it. All right, y'all take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.